think about the people who watch this film, how should they find it? Where can they find Hygge?
That's the question you're going to put to me. Okay. Where can you find it? Where can you find it? Jesus, man, how can I answer that?
I came to Denmark in 2008 and I got this call and he was like, "You really should call me." So I called him up and he was like, "Gary, would you like to meet? I've got this great little project. I think you could be the right man for it." So in 2009, I started Henne Kirkebekro, which is a far west coast inn. It's a restaurant, it's got bedrooms, it's got gardens, everything that people want to come and see. So there's people just wandering around. There's people sitting having coffee and cake. There's people checking in, there's people checking out, there's people having breakfast. You know, there's people coming for lunch, people coming for dinner. There's a lot happening. And that is what I think makes Henne quite special. I could be parking a car, I could be carrying coffee to someone's room, I could be in the garden, cutting the grass with a lawnmower. There's many things I do, but I do it because if I see a hole in something, I have to fill it. My job is to make sure that everybody else is doing their job so that the guests feel happy. It's about grabbing something small, something interesting, something different that they probably didn't expect. Sometimes they don't even know they've got it. Try and create an environment that people want to be in, try and make it all nice and relaxed, give people something that they've not had before. That for me is Hygge. So if you've got the right people, then you're going to have a great party, okay? And you're going to create Hygge by having the right people around you. That, for me, is the important thing, and that's what I have to do. As soon as I'm relaxed, then the guests are relaxed. Then they start to enjoy each other, and that is Hygge. I mean, in England we use the word, "oh, this is cozy, this is nice." But as soon as you say to a Danish person, "oh yeah, cozy, Hygge, cozy," they go, "no, it's not cozy. You can't just say cozy." I like the Danes, but they'll quite often just say no because they don't want you to understand what Hygge is. And I get it, you know? I think I get it. I've been cooking for 20 odd years. I won't tell you exactly how many years, but I've been cooking for a long time. It doesn't have to be pretty. That's not the point. Now, I really want to focus on, when I'm at home, cooking on a fire, you know, open fire. So the reason why I like pizza is because you've got to build a fire, you've got to nurture it, control it, feed it, and make dinner on it. And if you can do that with just some fire and a bit of dough and a bit of tomato sauce, and have a nice pizza, simple. Great. My name's Gary Dawson. Gary Dylan Dawson, after the great Bob Dylan, or Dylan the Rabbit from the Magic Roundabout. But anyway, I am the director of Henne Kirkeby Court. This is Henne Kirkeby Court. There's been an inn here, which is what Court is. Court is an inn on the side of the main road, as you can hear, next to the church for over 200 years. Just by its name, you can see it's Henne, where we are, Henne, Kirk, church, Bu, village, Court, inn. Okay, so Henne Kirkeby Court. It's as simple as that, okay? We started with this little 2-bedroom coaching inn, and it's now 12 bedrooms and 2 Michelin stars, which is not all me, of course. We have an amazing team, and more importantly, we have a chef, Paul Cunningham, who is just phenomenal. You know, without this chef, you can't do anything, you know, and we're sort of a partnership, which is great. Paul working his magic over there. There he is. Say this way. We've known each other for 14 years, and we met at the Fat Duck. I was cooking and he was eating, which was, you know, the wrong way around if you ask me, but that's the way it was. And I said, "Oh, where are you from?" "I'm from Denmark." "Ah, I've got a Danish girlfriend." It's like, really cool. "I'm going to move to Denmark one day." You know, I probably didn't really mean it at that point either. And ever since then, I'd called him a few times, and Helle had called him a few times, said, "Hey, how is it to work in Denmark? We know how it is to visit and be with family and friends, but how is it to work?" And he always said, "Listen, realistically, high-end cooking is still hard, but it's not as hard as in the UK. You can work hard, but there's also the time to say, stop, I'm going home."
I was looking in the garden yesterday, and with all the fennel that's coming through down there, you've got these dried, very, very thick stalks of bronze fennel that have been cut down last year, and obviously all the stalks have dried, and between the stalks you've got marjoram and oregano and thyme. It's all coming up now, and it's just like, this is the reason I've done it. It's really weird. It was a strange feeling yesterday.
That's nice. I like that. You had a fennel moment.
I had a fennel moment. Yeah, I had a.
Yeah, we can mix it.
Let's do munches.
No, I think that's really like it.
I think the biggest killer in society at the moment is stress, and it's very important that we all have an active life, but you need to rest as well. You know, the first 4 letters of the word restaurant, it makes sense to me. It's rest. It's your day off, and the Danes have got it intravenously. I mean, they've got this hygge business. That it's not difficult it's not difficult. I don't think it's difficult to explain. It's just like a feeling, you know. It's not, you can't really, yeah, maybe it is difficult to explain. You can't really put it into words. It's just a feeling, you know, and I think it exists everywhere. I don't think it's a particular Danish thing. I think it exists in every country, as long as you've got control of your private life and your professional life. And as long as you know how to say stop.
I used to be a chef, so you know, when you're cooking and you want to be the best, or you think you want to be the best, you've got to work in what you think to be the best kitchens you can. So I worked in a couple of cool kitchens before I ended up, you know, with a really good friend of mine, Heston, from the UK. What I was doing, which was trying to be the best restaurant in the world. I mean, I was working with, you know, Heston Blumenthal, the Fat Duck in Bray. At that point, we didn't have any Michelin stars. Michelin stars isn't everything, don't get me wrong, but you need something to aim for, and we wanted to be the best, and we just wanted to be committed to what we did. So we started with nothing, and then eventually they gave us 1 star, and we didn't even look up when we heard about that, because we were like, yeah, but we still got 30 people coming for lunch, let's get on with it. And then we got a 2nd star, then we got a 3rd star, and it was then top 50 Pellegrino, best restaurant in the world, and it was just at the top. And that, to me, was at that point everything. The process of making the decision to move, I think it started without me really thinking about it, was when Daniel, my eldest, was born. Like that. That was the first time that something mattered more than work. Like that. Okay, keep the ends as well. I'll give you a little bowl.
These aren't big, are they?
No, that's all right. Take them like that and slice those. I like pizza with potatoes. Okay?
I think we were very happy in England, and we both had careers, but obviously I couldn't help but think, why is it we have children? Why is it we've decided to put children in this world? Is it because we want to work 60 hours a week and never see them, and then suddenly they're grown up and you think, God, did I enjoy it enough? Did we enjoy each other enough?
When Daniel was born, I sort of sat there and I just thought, hang on a minute, I can't do this. I remember sitting there with Heston and I was just sobbing like a baby. You know, I can't do this anymore. You know, there's something suddenly has just gone, this is more important than what we're doing. You need to look at the end over there.
Yes,
See it bubbling?
yeah.
Right?
Then.
Yeah, see it's going up. That's cool. But then you can't see it, so it starts to burn. And then my father became very ill very suddenly, and it was like a matter of from running a half marathon to dying. It was like poof, really, really quick. There's something that happens in those last 2 weeks when you have the most honest conversations and the most special times when you sit there and you just talk. I tried to ask him any questions that I hadn't asked, you know, over the years, you know, and he told me things, and he gave me his motorcycle and he wanted me to go to the garage and start it so he could smell the petrol. You know, these sort of things was really, really important. It was a very horrible moment, but at the same time, brilliant. But it was at that point it was like, you know, we need to move. You know, there's more to life than this. We need to move on. So that was when I said, right, I'm going to do it. Said it for years. Helen, give me another 5 years. Give me another 5 years. And then I thought, no, I've said that. It's time to move. So that's why we said, we're coming. We're going to Denmark. And the minute you say it, and it's probably like many things, the minute you say it, it becomes real. And you have to do it. It's been 9 years. I think the biggest change, there hasn't been that many changes apart from obviously there's my work side of things. That's the big change. But in terms of as a family, have we changed? No. Have I changed the way I feel about my work? No. But what I have changed is the way I do my work.
When he's at work, he doesn't just like many people do, just work. He actually makes a lot of fun out of his work. He never ever, when he's working, he's like stressed. He's in the kitchen when everybody's running around making food. He just walks in, walks out, not stressed, relaxed, super cool.
Danish people are very good at having that work-life balance, because the whole country, the society speaks to the fact that that's what we're supposed to do.
Sometimes you just turn around and think, it's nice living in Denmark.
I knew I'd move here at some point because they've just got the balance right. This, you know, work, family, they've got it right, you know.
So I think one of the big differences between Denmark and a lot of other places is the value we give time over money. And perhaps that links together with hygge, which should be inexpensive, but it's more about having an experience or having a sense of togetherness with other people. My name is Mike Viking, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Happiness Research Institute. And basically I'm trying to answer 3 questions in my career and with the work that we do at the Institute. Trying to figure out, how do we measure happiness? Why are some people happier than others? And how do we improve quality of life? So once I've answered those 3 questions, I can retire. The average work week in Denmark is 37 hours. I show up 9-ish and we leave at 5. Yes, sometimes we work longer. I've had late nights as well, but the average work week is 37 hours. Then there is 5 weeks of paid vacation per year, 52 weeks of maternity or paternity leave, which the parents can share as they wish. Which also means that when we look at what is called the parental happiness gap, which is the fact that when you have small kids, parents are less satisfied with their life than non-parents. In the US, parents are 12% less happy than non-parents. When we look at Denmark, the gap is 3%. So it's not the kids that are making you unhappy, it's the lack of family-friendly policies. And I think to some extent, we have decoupled wealth and well-being. Of course, money still matters, but I think quality of life is relatively cheap. I don't own a car because I don't need a car. So I cycle everywhere. And I think that brings a level of security. A lot of journalists will ask you, how can you be the happiest in the world? You pay some of the highest taxes in the world. Yes, we do. I pay perhaps a little bit above 50% of my income in taxes. But me, together with 7 or 8 out of 10 Danes, 70 to 80%, we're happily paying our taxes. The reason for this is that we feel we get a lot of quality of life in return. So we pay into a common pool that builds great infrastructure for bicycles, that cleans up the water in the harbor so I can go swimming in the summertime, which is free. Access to healthcare, equal opportunities for men and women, generous unemployment benefits. Basically, we are really good at reducing extreme unhappiness. You could say we're the happiest people in the world, or you could say we're the least unhappy. The trouble with that explanation is that it didn't help us understand why does Denmark do a little bit better than the other Scandinavian countries, because Sweden, Finland, Norway, Iceland have similar welfare systems. So that's why we started to look at culture. What is it in the Danish culture that Danes do differently when it comes to ways to improve quality of life? Hygge is a cornerstone of Danish identity and Danish culture. During the week, we'll talk about how hyggelig Saturday is going to be. Then on Saturday, we'll talk about how hyggelig this is. And then next week, we'll talk about how hyggelig Saturday was. So I think we are very aware of that sort of value and that activity within our language and within our culture. The amount of candles we use twice as much candle wax as number 2 in Europe, which is Austria. If you Google nice restaurant or cheap restaurant, you won't get as many hits on Google as if you Google hyggelig restaurant. There's more fireplaces in Denmark because it has a hygge factor. So there are a lot of different sort of indicators that shows us how important hygge is to the Danes. The word is actually an old Norwegian word. For several hundred years, Denmark and Norway was one kingdom. So it came to Denmark in the early 1800s, and it's been growing in use since then. Norway also have a similar word now called koselig in Swedish, had muesli, in Dutch, gezellig. But the thing with hygge is that it's not just an adjective. It's not just something you use to describe something with. Oh, this restaurant is hyggelig. It's also a verb. So it's something you do actively. Say you want to come over and hygge with us tonight? Or what are you doing? You want to go out? No, I just want to stay home and hygge. So it's something you actively do. So I think that's the main difference when we look at the languages across the world that have similar words to the Danish hygge. And then the volume of which it's being used. And how we see it as part of our culture.
So, okay, let's go and feed the calf. Is it time for that now? Yeah. Oh, she started to eat the hay. I'm so happy. And this is only 2 days old, the little one there. And there comes the bull. Fibonacci, he's called. He's a great mathematician. Come. Oi. Yeah, that's what she do. She's really naughty. Ooh. Come on. And Christian actually cut the hair of this cow over there because she thought that she couldn't see enough. He cut her hair. We'll never eat this one, I'm sure. Oh my God. Yeah, this is typical. I brought up in a farm. I think it's a lot to do with what you are brought up with and what you like, how you like to live. I work together with my husband in a general practice. It's only him and I. And we have been doing that for 13 years. And we follow each other 24 hours a day, and as long as we're friends, it's good. And we are. This was actually, from the beginning, a small place. There was a little hen house over there and an old stable. And we've lived here for 13 years. I really love to repair houses, to fix them.
My grandfather, he bought buildings also in Copenhagen and made sure it was renovated and rented out. And I know that my mom, she very much liked that. And so it's almost like it's been inherited through generations. Every family has their way of coming together, their way of hygge. And I think for our family, and I'm sure that it is for others, it is the teamwork. What we feel as a family is often that it's very hygge to meet over something and do it and see the results afterwards.
I see hygge as biologically the same feeling for everyone. You know, it's the same, cocktail of feeling for everyone. But it's different from person to person what makes you feel this hygge. For some, it's playing computer games with your friends and having that kind of hygge, and for others, it's go sailing or doing other stuff. In Copenhagen, people tend to go on cafes and have a talk and stuff, and they can call that hygge. But if you listen to their conversation, or most people's conversation, people tend to talk about themselves, and I wouldn't say that is hygge. Hygge is more, everyone is focused on each other. If you want to experience real hygge and real joy, the only thing you have to do is not being self-centered. When you're having a home party, you can have a lot of hygge in your house, and then everyone tends to, go into the city, and that's when all the hygge, disappears.
Yeah, in the fall of 2015, I was interviewed by a British journalist who asked me about the connection between hygge and well-being, which I hadn't really thought about before. And then shortly afterwards, I was contacted by a publishing house in the UK and asked me, is that something you can write a book about? And I thought, write a book about hygge? That sounds like a crazy idea, because it's so ingrained in our culture, and it's really fun and interesting as a scientist to take something you're so surrounded by and then start to look at it from a sort of from a distance, from a scientific point of view. And I have a soft spot for crazy ideas, so I thought, let's try and explore this and see what it actually means to us. I've been completely overwhelmed with how many people have embraced the book. And daily I get letters from readers from all over the world saying, I think I've been hygge or doing hygge all my life. I just didn't know there was a word for it. So I think what we've done is basically just given a language to people that are doing something they appreciate and helping them appreciate it in a new way. I think right now, in a lot of Western countries, there is a growing awareness that we have become richer, but not necessarily happier. And there is a curiosity or a search for new ways of doing things, especially where we try to find quality of life or well-being without the wealth, trying to decouple wealth and well-being, basically. And I think South Korea is actually the poster child in that feeling. South Korea gone from one of the poorest countries in the world to one of the richest in 2 generations. One of the reporters from South Korea said to me, earlier we've been looking at the US as the role model, that's where we wanted to go. And now we've gone down that path, and now we're not so sure that's where we should head anymore. So he was on sort of an inspiration tour of the Scandinavian countries, because He said, you're doing something right here. You are delivering quality of life to people. And that's something we are interested in copying. In South Korea, they have a saying, if one cousin buys land, the other cousin gets a stomachache. And what we see in countries that are getting richer, which is great from standard of living point of view, is that we don't necessarily get happier because we care about our relative income, which means that we not only focus at how much we can consume, but we focus on our position in the social hierarchy. And we continue spending money we don't have to buy stuff we don't need to impress people we don't like. We compare ourselves when it comes to wealth, we compare ourselves when it comes to beauty, we compare ourselves when it comes to employment and titles and a lot of things. And that's why we see that social media can have a negative effect on our life satisfaction, on our happiness, because social media is this constant bombardment of great news that happens for everybody else. That technology, I think, is still in its infancy, and we're still toddlers trying to figure out how does it work and how does it affect us? How do we create the best sort of behavior sets around it? For example, family time or dinner time in Denmark, saying, okay, between 6 and 8, no phones. All the family phones in the basket. And we'll have a conversation, we'll have a dinner as a family. I think more and more families will try to work around that.
I think we have to actually work harder now than we had before, because life was much more simple before. We didn't have all these social media, everything to compete with. It was a much simpler, much more simple life. And that's actually what I'm trying to learn my children. It's not okay to sit with this stupid thing or walk around with this stupid thing. It's not okay. And that's why, because actually people are cheated by all this. There is actually a very nice book, it's written many years ago, it's called Momo. And it's about time thieves. And this is a time thief, all these social media. Because people think that I'm friend with someone in a laptop. Fantastic. It's a world that cheats us to think that this is okay. And that's why I think that this word, hygge, suddenly is so very important. Because we suddenly realize that we don't have it and we can't find it.
I've thought about it, it's self-care. Hygge is actually also self-care. To be able to say, well, Facebook is just not good for me anymore, so I take good care of myself and I just close the door. To say, well, being this old crazy cat lady in the garden is maybe a bit peculiar, but it's good for me. I forget myself, I forget the hours. I just look at my watch and say, no, I haven't been out here for 5 hours, but I have. To drink a nice cup of tea, to prepare a nice meal, even when you're alone. Not to eat a pizza from just a package, but eat a nice meal. It's self-care, and it's a really big part of hygge, I think. And I think that it will make your life better. and I think that you will be happier. My name is Signe Wennebak. I'm from Copenhagen, Denmark. I've been working as a journalist for 25 years, so it has been a long career. Kossa. I was, I think, one of the first few thousand first in Denmark to be on Facebook because my line of work, and I was so happy about it. I traveled in the Middle East, I traveled in Africa, and I said to everybody, well, this is just a democratic tool. We can all connect, we can stay connected, we can discuss, we can have an open opinion. I used to have an opinion on many things. I used to have an opinion on politics. I even ran for parliament once. And I had an opinion on especially climate and sustainability. That has always been the thing, but also agricultural politics, refugees, equal rights, but not in the same way as before. I'm not into debates anymore. I'm not on social media in the way I was before, because it's just not worth it. It's not worth it to take the discussions on Facebook. I think Facebook changed. I think it's very important that we stay human. And I don't know if we stay human on all these social media, digital media. I don't know if we are authentic. And then I just thought, no way. I cannot see myself every day on Facebook just saying, oh, this is awful. I could not see myself having a great life that way. Having a life with hygge. Having a life with joy that way.
It's really interesting that hygge's caught on so much, and why is it particularly now? And you know, okay, the Danes and actually all Scandinavian cultures built around fires. You know, they're cold countries in the winter. They've lit a fire. Fire is a source of warmth, and their culture still remains around that. You know, their long nights in the winter, they retreat into a sort of hibernation sort of thing. And I think that one of the reasons it's so, you know, prevalent and popular at the moment is because life is so quick and so pacey in the West at the moment, and so full on and so bright, you know, the lights all the time, that actually we kind of just want to dim the lights and, you know, sit around a fireplace and retreat into a more primitive way in some ways of being and being cozy together. I think if there's one thing that people can do, it's about time. It's about making time to reflect on how your life is going. And I just think taking some time once a week to think about your happiness, home or work, will actually help you adapt and adjust a bit more. But you know, if you try and pursue happiness too much, it's like if you try and pursue love or pursue a relationship, it's sort of, you mess up, you know, you're going for it too directly. So sometimes it's what we call oblique goals, that, you know, actually you need to commit to doing other things and happiness will emerge out of it. You know, the currency of relationships is time, not money. How much time do we spend with our children, with our partners, with our families, with our friends? You know, we need to spend that time. It's about activity, which is if we're moving, we're more likely to be happier. You know, if we're very sedentary lifestyles, you get stuck, your energy gets stuck. Just walking, running, whatever it is you like to do. There's a lot of stuff around mindfulness, around meditation, and, you know, actually just noticing what's going on around you is a big factor. Being engaged with the world, not daydreaming, not drifting. We're creatures that like novelty, curiosity, learning. So learning new things is great for us, and we do seek novelty. And then finally, and perhaps most forgotten, is generosity, is giving to others, is actually, we feel really good when we give to others. So when we start talking about those big 5 factors, we call them connect, be active, take notice, keep learning, and give. I think that happiness is the most important human thing. You know, I don't think that Hygge is the answer to everything, but I think it's a balancing force. It's saying something to us. The very fact that everyone's so interested in it is saying to us that actually we're out of balance. This is why this is so appealing.
One of my friends, a former soldier, he called me and he said, "You will not dare to do this, but I will challenge you. Will you go out with me and dumpster dive on Christmas night?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do that." And we had fun, and we did something that was really easy to talk about. And I wrote a piece the day after. It took me like 1 hour. It was so fast. So that kicked me in the right direction, where I thought, I just want to write joyful, hyggelig, nice pieces, working together with nice people. I mean, I'm sitting here in the countryside in Denmark, and I really like the village life, to meet people. I like to have a glass of wine with my neighbors in the evening. And actually, just yesterday, I said to my neighbors, well, I think I'm going out dumpster diving. And then I think I will prepare soup, and then I think we will have a meal together. It would be meaningful for me to dumpster dive, find food, prepare food, and serve it on a nice table. And I like flowers on the table. I think that's very important. I actually want to show you that I like you when I put flowers on the table. Well, you mean something to me. I've picked these flowers because you mean something to me, and now I've prepared a homemade meal for you. And then you can sit down and you can talk, and we can have a nice conversation. I think that's so important, and that's what keeps us human. I think the whole interaction of making food together, of eating food together, of having a meal, sitting down together without screens, without computers, without telephones, I think that's very important. So I think people need to focus on something else now. They need to focus on something that is hygge, that is nice, that is pointing in the right direction.
I don't think hygge is happiness. I think it's a way to some happiness. I think that idea of spending time with friends and, you know, being cozy is very appealing to us because, you know, life is so quick and fast, and it's about us slowing down. And I think that is really healthy. I think if our cultures could slow down and we could feel the ground under our feet more, that we could experience friendships and spend time with them more, we would be happier. And so hygge is part of that.
Hygge, it's such a big part of the work-life balance, I think, and the quality of life. And I think that's why it appeals not just to Danish people, but to people around the world. Unfortunately, it's spiraled out of control a little bit. Like, we had 9 books published on the subject of hygge. It was just surreal in a way. It was totally overwhelming.
It's kind of odd for a Dane, to be honest, because Hygge is it's just really a part of our lifestyle. It's not something we think that much about.
We have so many good stories from Denmark, we feel, and it was just crazy that it was this little thing which is so natural to us that was what people really clocked onto.
The perception that came out of that big bus was more what I would define as a very superficial way of understanding Hygge. It was like the obvious things, with the woolen socks, with the fireplace and all that, and that is also Hygge, but there's so much more to tell about Hygge.
We could also see that some negative articles started appearing where they were saying, yeah, it may be good if you're in Denmark, but this is London and we can't have a Hygge life because this does not apply to us and the way that we lead our lives. And I think that's very much the misconception about Hygge. And that's what I mean, like it spiraled a little bit out of control. It became like a trend where it's really not.
They put it in the English dictionary. Hygge is now a word in there, and I said you can't really translate it in that way. And manufacturing products to be a Hygge candle or a Hygge jumper is the biggest load of bullshit I've ever heard in my life. It's like you can't, by lighting a candle, that doesn't make Hygge. It's the people, it's the feeling.
If there is something that a lot of people are interested in, companies will come, right? Suddenly, companies will say, this is Hygge, and try to put a Hygge label on it. The same way when yoga became popular, suddenly you could buy $500 yoga pants. That's not really what yoga is about. And the same thing with Hygge. It's not about the things, it's about the atmosphere. You shouldn't focus on, do I have the right lamp or do I have the right chair? Forget about it. I forgot the candles. Don't worry about the candles. But you said in the book you needed candles. No, it's fine. Let it go. Relax, sit back, enjoy life a little bit. That's what it's about. It's not about doctrine or rule book. It's just sort of everyday happiness.
Would you like like in pairs or in? Yeah, absolutely. Most happy to do so. Rusted, like dense and big. And that one is still available.
And that's the same with this like gray tone as well.
I love this. Is gorgeous. Yeah, there you go.
We're online and we also just opened up a shop nearby in Eaglevale.
We used to be in Denver, but we live in Vail now.
Oh, okay.
Just opened a shop here as well.
Yeah, it's so great seeing you.
Yeah, really good to see you too.
Yeah.
Safe travels home,
Okay,
and we'll see you when you come back into town.
Sounds good.
All right, bye, Melissa.
It's not just about the products. We feel like we need to talk to people about what Hygge is and how we found Hygge, and the shop would lose so much of its soul, like without being able to talk to people about it, I
think so too, and I think that's usually how the conversations go, is where this is what Hygge is, this is what Hygge means to us, and then these products can help us to create that, and that's the order, like, and it's not like, hey, here are these products, and if you buy them you get Hygge. I'm Koen van Renswoude. I'm Dutch originally, but living now here in Vail, Colorado, where together with Alexandra, we run Hygge Life, a business with which we retail European home decor and accessories, and we try to spread Hygge here in Colorado.
It's not about things, and you can't buy Hygge, but I believe that you can create this atmosphere and ambiance that create Hygge moments.
Because people get to know Hygge about now, with all the media attention and kind of the buzz that's going around it. Where we started the business 4 years ago, and a lot of times, like even in articles or blogs that have been written and they mention us, they're like, oh, and all these businesses jumping on the Hygge bandwagon and trying to commercialize it. And it's funny how that, like, with the Hygge trend, there's immediately a kind of a counterculture at the same time. There are kind of people that try to push the brakes, or like, oh yeah, it's just like it's getting too commercial right away, or it's just another like hype. That's gorgeous. Yeah.
Great, yeah. Welcome.
Koen and I met 6 years ago in Vail, and we fell in love, and we ended up moving to Amsterdam because Koen was going to grad school, and I decided, I'll go along. This is like worth moving and living in Amsterdam, and I was up for the adventure. And so then that's when we started Hygge Life. And so it was really like just instigated by living in Europe and traveling to Copenhagen, and there was this energy and feeling there that I had never felt before. And along with the beautiful design and spaces and just how talented the Danes are that way, I felt like it spoke to me. And I have always loved creating beautiful spaces, and I'm interested in interior design. And so to me, like, that Hygge feeling had so much to do with the spaces that I was in and the products that I had seen in Copenhagen and the candles that were always glowing in windows and people's, friends and families' homes that just felt comfortable and cozy.
So in Denmark, there's a place called Skagen, and it's the tip of the country, and it's where the Baltic Sea and the North Sea collide. And so my mom and I went there in 2009, and I was like, the North Sea and the Baltic Sea collide, like that doesn't make any sense. Like, how can two oceans collide? And you actually stand on the sandbar and you watch the waves just come together. And it's bizarre. It's literally what they say. That's two seas colliding. So that was my favorite place in Denmark, and so that's why that's on my wall too. When I moved out of my parents' house and moved here, it was very important to me to make the space feel like home, because it didn't feel like home at all. The sounds of the cars driving by would be very loud. The lights outside would shine in through my blinds in a different way. I couldn't sleep. There's noises about the city that are different than the country, obviously. So it was a huge adjustment. So my parents wanted to quickly put, pictures on the walls and bring in chairs and bring in tables and just kind of make it a space that I could call home. So they really helped me with that because they could sense that I needed that. And then this little reminder, mind these three TTT here, they're chime, things take time. That is also from my parents' house that my mom brought, because when I first moved out here, I would just kind of not, I would leave work and it would be a busy commute home, and then I would park in a parking lot. Like, it wasn't like the countryside and the quiet and the sort of solo atmosphere that I was used to. So my mom pulled this off her wall and put it on mine so that when I came up the stairs, I would have a reminder to just check my day at the door and realize that things take time, just digest the day, find some peace, and just don't sweat the small stuff. So that's my reminder as soon as I walk in the door. Thanks, Mom. People don't like to admit that objects have meaning, but I think, sometimes objects represent, how you felt in a place or somewhere that you've been. And sometimes objects you've bought because you've worked hard to be able to buy them, and that's okay. I think if we don't place an emphasis on objects, that's a good thing. But sometimes objects just sort of bring an experience tangible.
This is an old picture.
It is funny that in this stretch 4 are just close.
No, he owned it though.
Oh, right.
Papa had this too. He rented it out to farmers.
Really?
Yeah.
My grandparents immigrated from Denmark, what would have been about 60 years ago now. And so my papa came to be a nurseryman. So he started working at a nursery, and then he went on to own and operate one of Manitoba's most popular nurseries called Chelmerdine Garden Center. And so he is kind of, the father of the green thumb in our family. I can't walk into that nursery without thinking about my papa. That was how he was able to provide for his family. He created a life here through working at the nursery. It's the place where my papa started things in Canada. They've both been gone for close to 10 years. Feels like just yesterday I was sitting in their backyard. I think that really speaks to the kind of relationship we had. I remember that I would sooner spend an afternoon at my grandparents' place in their backyard on their patio than I would with friends my own age as a teenager. While my love for nature is inherent, sometimes that's a purposeful hygge, so I'm seeking hygge in those moments. It's that feeling that you get from it where you're just like, okay, I'm comfortable, I'm present, I'm taking in everything in my surroundings. It's the feeling you get from doing those things where you're like, oh, okay, that's hygge, that's comfortable. I like that. I want more of that. My parents have a lot of acreage at their property, so there was lots of landscaping to be done and lots of gardening potential. So he would just come and show my parents sort of how it all worked, and then my parents uptook it, and then I uptook it. It's just kind of, it's our family thing. Parts of their heritage and traditions are being lived out here because my mom cares so much about it.
I keep looking that way because I can see where my dad spent the majority of his time out in that field over there. And after we lost him in 2007, it took me, this is really silly, It took me 4 years before I could even walk over there and spend any time over there. That's a long time, but yeah, he's an integral part of this whole thing. In Denmark, on the farm, he always had a love for plants and trees. He studied it over there, he studied it a bit here. It's just who he was. His yard was featured in the newspaper. People would go to their backyard for their wedding pictures to be taken. It was a very, very cozy backyard, a very hyggelig backyard.
I just love it there. I love driving down that gravel road and just feeling like, okay, everything's leaving. All the stress, all the things that I've thought about too much during the day, it's all going. I'm where I'm most comfortable, I'm where I feel most safe, most secure, where I can let my guard down. If you're close to your parents, which I am, moving out of your parents' house is one thing, but moving into the city when you're used to the quiet and the country and the beautiful nature around you, that's a whole other layer. So it was very hard.
Mind these three, TTT, hear their chimes, things take time. She needed that plaque. I had it hanging in my kitchen for 28 years, maybe 30 years, because she got it about a year ago. And I said, it needs to go into your place now so that when you come home from your stressful day, she can walk up her stairs, she'll see that little plaque and she'll take a breath and she'll calm down and she'll enter her safe place, her beautiful, cozy home. That's why I gave it to her. I'm good with all that now. She needed it. Maybe one day she'll pass it on to one of her children. It's a cute little plaque. It's from Denmark.
The products that we source, it's not only that we love them, but it's also that we know the makers behind them and the stories and like the intentions behind them.
And like the sheepskins are all natural, so they're not dyed all the same color or bleached the same white. It's also about the materials of products. Like plastic is not necessarily that hygge. Like your wine tastes better from a nice wine glass, for example. So those things do add also to, I think, creating hygge spaces.
And they're all machine washable, so they're fairly easy to care for. Yep, and then some larger blankets are on the table.
It was January 2016, and we're on the verge of moving back to the US. And that's when I proposed to Alex. And I was working in hospitality at the time, and a hospitality friend was working in one of the other hotels in Amsterdam with a little roof terrace that pretty much overlooks Amsterdam beautifully, making sure she would not forget where I come from and where we spent those 4 valuable years. That's where I proposed. And she said yes, so that was great. That was wonderful.
The way we do birthdays in a Danish way is we serve kringle. That's the birthday cake. Kringle, in the most basic description, is a Danish pastry. Our family just devours it. I haven't always been, the biggest kringle fan, but you eat it because it's just what you do. You eat the kringle. You eat the kringle.
That smells like kringle. I know. But this smells like kringle too, because the cardamom. Yeah, it does.
All of us have birthdays in different months, so we kind of get to tap into that Danish side throughout the entire year. Hygge comes through in maintaining our Danish traditions.
We have an old tradition in Denmark, which is the sauna experience, the home-built sauna on the beach. To build it yourself and to be able to build a fire and put a lot of effort in it. That helps with hygge. And you maybe had a long week in school and stressed, and so you just go into the sauna and you get this, warmth and relaxation. But you still have this tension from the long week. So you need something like a shock of cold water to, clear everything out of you. So then afterwards, you're just a totally new person and you can just relax, like in the right way, and feel safe in warm clothes after, having that cold shock.
Well, this week, Kuhn and I are getting married. And we decided to call it a hygge wedding because to us, the most important thing is that our families and friends can really come together and experience those special moments together. We really fell in love with hygge because that's the way we wanted to live our lives. And so for us, it wasn't just an aha moment for a business idea or something. We hope to spread that to other people and communicate that it's really a way that we can live our lives and make it a more fulfilling and content and happy life.
Yeah. Saturday will almost be a piece of cake after this,
Yeah.
I think. Love you, baby.
Elsket er den, som sætter sig. Her skaber vi et mødested for dig, mig og alle. Udgangspunktet er glæden ved mødet og måltiden. Glæden ved at skabe rum til liv. Det grænseløse køkken starter i Ebeltoft og flytter rundt i Danmark over de kommende år.
Velkommen alle sammen. Velkommen til alle danskere. Welkom aan alle Hollanders. Welcome to the Americans and welcome to the Africans. Today we have a very, very international day, and I do it in English now because there are so many, and the Japanese. Come on, I forgot. Nutmeg and green beans. Oh. You should smell it, man. It's really something old, like my grandmother made. Cauliflower, and she made with this. Oh, beautiful. But this one was planted in springtime. And then it's just going to be like this. Sort of spring garlic. Sort of voor op de tafels.
Ja. Oh, dit is zeg maar een soort van topping.
Ja, ja, dat kan je wel zeggen. Ja. I'm Frans and I'm Dutch and I am actually a farmer. I've been a farmer since the 70s, the late 70s, and I came to Denmark in mid 80s. But there were so many other things I would like to do in my life. I'm a painter and I'm an artist. I do portraits and things, and I like to shape things. And then in a summer where I didn't have any money, I asked Jacob here in the restaurant if he didn't need somebody just to make some food or whatever.
I have this restaurant over here beside the Boundless Kitchen, and one summer this crazy Dutch guy came in and asking for work. I could see that Frans, he's so much into using the food as a social tool. He's not a Michelin star chef, but he's doing a very great job. This is one of my favorite projects, working with moving limits and bringing people together over the meal. We are trying to take the everyday meal out of people's house and bringing them into long tables, talking to new people that they don't know. It's a kind of social experiment, working with food as a social tool.
The Boundless Kitchen, sort of strange because it's just a translation of the Danish word. And in Danish it's sort of grænseløs. It's sort of something really wild, without boundaries. And boundless is more mentioned like what? How can we tear down boundaries?
The starting idea of making this project was it was a cultural tourist project, and I was trying to look at the Danish society where people meet is like enclosed. So if you come as a tourist to Denmark, you're not meeting the local people.
There's more and more people coming, and people just eager, longing for this, for being together, building a sort of community which wasn't there before. And then we've been doing this the last 4 years, I think. This is eating together. In the beginning, it was sort of awkward because it was this idea that people came together. It's not, normally this is a restaurant. We sit here and there's tables and you can order a table and you sit there with your girlfriend and your wife or your children, and that's the normal thing. But here were people from Japan and from Africa and from Holland and from America and from Denmark. We absolutely don't know each other. And all of a sudden something happens. You could say Hygge and the sort of community we like to build, they are related, but they are sort of two sides of something. Maybe is that the picture? I found out in all these years, Hygge is sort of conservative. It is a way it is a conservative word. Because Hygge is sort of, we know each other. Hygge is, you don't do that with people you don't know. Hygge is something which is sort of old-fashioned. People recognize if you're going through the park and then you can see some people, the Hygge is there. But it is closed. It is them. It is them who have it. It's not open. It's not inviting. Maybe they smile at me when I pass by, but I am not invited in there. There is a sort of unseen wall around it. It's their Hygge, not mine. I can't get to that.
For me, Hygge is not a very good thing, a little too romantic. So this project, I really wanted to look at Hygge in another way, when you're eating at the tables, you're having a hyggelig time, but you're also open to and sharing the plates, and you don't know the people next to you. So hopefully it can do something about the dark side of hygge.
There is a dark side to hygge because to Danes, hygge usually happens in smaller, tight-knit circles with people we know from 20, 30 years ago, people we went to school with. So I moved from a small town in Jutland to Copenhagen, and it took me a while to sort of penetrate the social circles because I didn't know anybody. And people were hesitant to invite me in because if they invited me in, then perhaps the evening would be less hyggelig because nobody knew Mike. And hygge is about feeling relaxed. It's not about showing face. So hygge mostly happens with people we're really comfortable with. And that means that the social circles in Denmark can be fairly tight. And I hear it again and again from expats moving to Copenhagen that it's super difficult to make friends with the Danes. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort to get invited into those social circles. We're also seeing a pattern when it comes to sort of opening up and meeting strangers. I think the pattern is a growing xenophobia, a rise in inequality, definitely in the US, in the UK, but also in Denmark. I think there's a lot of truth in that a society should be judged on how we treat our most vulnerable citizens. That goes for Denmark as well, that goes for immigrants as well. And I think that's a dark side to hygge, that it is sort of an exclusive club that takes a lot of effort to get invited into. And that's something we should be better at opening up.
Something happened in September 2015. We saw refugees all the way from Syria on the Danish motorways heading to Sweden.
There's 500 kilometers to Sweden.
No problem.
How do you think you can walk to Sweden 500 kilometers?
We walk from Syria to here, no problem.
We, the Danish population, saw something that we had never, ever thought. The government wasn't helping. Nobody was helping. The police was sent out, but people like you and me, they were refugees. They were running away from bombs, from a terrible, terrible civil war with little children on the motorway. And we saw them and nobody did anything. It broke my heart because I have been raised to be proud to be Danish. We are a decent country with Christian values, and we have love for each other. Somebody, I didn't, but somebody went down to the south of Denmark and put the refugees in their cars and drove them to Sweden, or tried to persuade them to stay, saying, hey, this is actually a nice country, why don't you stay here? We'd like to have you. But most of them went to Sweden. So it went smooth in the end, but it was with no help from the government, and well, that changed a lot for me. I thought we could be proud of our country abroad. I know that the New York Times and many other newspapers write about the way we treat the refugees, and of course they do, because it's not right.
From the start, when we had the glass house, from the start there, we found out we have to do something with the refugees, because the refugees was all of a sudden there in 16 a huge problem, and nobody did anything because it was too hard, or too, you can't communicate with them. If you think about them as a group, refugees, like waves, they talk about that like that, politicians do, like waves over the border, like millions and millions, and we drown, sort of, they talk like that. And then, but it is not like that, because every little village in this country has some. And all of a sudden, people meet them, the refugees, the strangers, the Syrians, the Afghan, the Iraqi people coming into sort of very conservative little small societies. And after half a year, they are their Iraqi people. It's my Muhammad because he's my neighbor, or I work together with him. You know, if it's people to people, eye to eye. One of the refugees is working here in the restaurant as a dishwasher. In the kitchen, I was there, and he said, I would like to work here because I'm very good at cleaning. I'm very, very good at cleaning. And it was so honest. This was sort of, and Jacob, he said, okay, let's try. And all of a sudden here, it happens. It's changing for him. It's sort of complete change because he's in the kitchen. He's working, doing the dishes, and Jacob comes in and he said, "Hey, Mahmoud, do you want some coffee?" The chef making coffee for me. He told me in the beginning. It was sort of, it's not possible. My boss is making coffee for me. I should make coffee for him. And this sort of new relationships, even though sometimes it's hard for him to understand us. Sometimes it's also hard for us to understand him. But this sort of new community building is, I think that's the core thing of the Boundless Kitchen.
We need to give examples of humanity, and it's you have to welcome other people. The worst thing for the human being is that they are so, they are getting comfortable and they are going into routines and are not open to new things. So opening up for refugees and making a space for new relationships or new meetings is of great value for me.
The table which is set is in every culture in the world the place where we meet. We meet with friends, we meet with family, and we meet with guests, and we meet with everybody. There we meet. And that is the whole idea of this. To share with other people from other countries, from our neighbors, our not neighbors, are the ones from wherever. Try to share that and see in your eyes that you're a brother. My brother, of course.
Somebody says that hygge is only being together with friends or family. You can't feel hygge with strangers. It's so wrong in my perspective. It's really wrong. You can feel hygge with everybody.
But you have to include people. But I meet people without being present to anybody else but themselves. That they forget actually what is important and what is real and what is I can touch, I can feel, I can hug, I think it's much more important than we actually think it is. And when you talk about the loneliness or the fear, the very many things that are opposite hygge, I think that is one of the reasons why we have this society today.
If I should give a recommendation, I would say that the people wanting to find hygge should dare to give themselves to another situation. They should try to find where in life, in all these millions of possibilities, will they find the hygge. But you can't tell them where, because they have to find out themselves. But they have to change something. So suddenly say, oh, that was nice. That was a really nice place to be. There's hygge.
It'd be really nice if, by sort of telling my story a little bit, that you guys, you know, on the other side of the pond can sort of say, okay, hang on, let's focus on here on some important things, the good times, and make more of them. If you can take, you know, those small moments of happiness that we all find in our daily work and family life, and make more of them. It's not going to get any worse if you do that, you know. And you know, everybody knows that you work a lot more in America than we do. We are the happiest country in the world. Denmark.
Pay attention to life's slower moments. So find what your hygge is. Your hygge could be sitting on a couch with a tea. Your hygge could be sitting around a table with a group of friends. Your hygge could be walking outside in nature. Just find what your hygge is. Find something that makes you slow down.
You know, hygge is that word that we've grown up with hearing. So it's always 55 years have been a part of my vocabulary is that word hygge. And I believe my Canadian friends, I believe they all have hygge. They just have never put that word to it. It's in us all. It's not just about the things you have. It's what you make of what you have too.
When Nelson Mandela was in prison, 27 years in South Africa, he so wanted to garden. He sat there in his cell and he just really wanted to grow things. And after a while he was allowed. So he had a roof garden and he tended that garden and he says, well, it saved me. It saved my mind to have that small roof garden. So I think that he shows us the way. Maybe we can change the world, not as I tried before, from upside down, but from below, from the grassroots, from the garden, from the field, from the kitchen.
There isn't necessarily a price tag on happiness, but we can enjoy quality of life in an inexpensive way. I think that realization, which can come from hygge, is part of a bigger journey where we hopefully finally stop, using resources that are already scarce to buy stuff we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like. Maybe there is not this one destination, this one goal where we will arrive and finally we'll be happy ever after. Maybe that's an illusion. And maybe we need to turn it around a little bit and think, okay, it's not about the pursuit of happiness. We need to have some sort of happiness of pursuit. We need to enjoy what it is that we're doing right now.
Life goes by really quickly, and I think the older you get, the more you realize that. It's those moments, those special moments in life, that's what makes life worthwhile and fulfilling.
Would you like to start?
Koen, you are my best friend and companion. I promise to be there for you, not only as your wife and lover, but as your friend. I will strive to keep joy, fun, laughter, and playfulness in our everyday lives together.
Well, in you, lieve Alex, I have truly found my best friend and true companion. And now I promise to be your best friend and true companion, with who you can share all beautiful moments in life that are ahead of us. We feel a certain way, we try to live a certain way, we try to share that and see what you want to do with it. But it's not here's your Hygge checklist or here's your Hygge product and now you're Hygge. You have to discover it yourself, I think. But it's really fun to kind of help people discover it. That's for sure.
How can you find it? I don't know. I don't know how you find it. I know that I rather would find openness than hygge. To love some people is something beyond both these things. You know, hygge and communities and love is something higher, I think. And hygge is a sort of a lower part of that.
A good wrap-up line. That's all, folks.
Zach, how'd it go?
I was surprised. I think a lot of it is actually kind of musical.
Oh my goodness, what a good little puppy. Hi, puppy. Oh, right there. Right there. Right there. Right there.
me. Sing us a song.
Sing us a song, come on. Come on.
It was really hyggligt.
You're on it. I like that.
It was really hyggligt.
This is weird at all. Have you ever met?
Yeah.
I have some scarring here.
We could just ice cream. Everything will be fine.
I look really concerned and distraught.
I'm not very good at not smiling.
Hi, my name's Paul Prophet. I'm 29. I'm Capricorn.
Oh. Make it look easy.
No! Oh, sorry!
Comfy.
I don't know.
I wouldn't have worn this if I remembered that Victoria was interviewing me.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Vikings!
Cause I miss you, cause I miss you.